All set.
Okay, I'm calling to order the meeting of the Hull Planning Board. The date is August 26, 2026. The time is 7:30 p.m. We'll do a roll call, starting with the first box that I see. Abby,
Lehman here.
Lisa, you're on mute.
Sorry, French here.
Okay. Nancy,
Voice here.
Jean,
Paquin here.
okay. All right. We do not have Chandel Schulte or Nathan Payton at this time. They may join later. Just a quick note, if anyone is recording, you need to make that clear.
I am.
We have Lisa recording. Anyone else?
I'm not recording, but I have. No, I actually don't have transcription on. So I'm not doing anything.
Okay, great. All right, so we will be moving through tonight's agenda. On tonight's agenda, we have minutes, we have the 120 Nantasket modification request, and then a master plan discussion, followed by a quick discussion about scheduling the joint meeting with the zoning bylaw committee. We have need to vote for a new clerk, and then we'll see if we get through project updates or committee subcommittee updates. So I will start with the minutes of July 30th, 2026. We'll ask if there are any corrections related to those minutes.
You guys see it?
Yes.
Great.
I will note that we will need to eventually approve the minutes of the executive session, so we'll probably do that in an executive session. So we'll work on scheduling that, just in case anyone was wondering about that. I know that had been brought up.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Nathan, is that you?
It is. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble. So I have to join from my phone for a moment.
No problem.
I'm switching over
Okay,
my
we have
computer shortly.
Nathan Payton has joined the party. He has entered the chat, as kids would say. Okay, any corrections? Otherwise, right, Abby?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of July 30th, 2026.
Okay, we have a motion from Kleeman. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from French. So that is a motion by Kleeman, second by French to approve the minutes of July 30th. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. I'll start with Abby.
Aye. Kleeman, aye.
Nancy?
Voice, aye.
Lisa?
French, aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
Jean?
Abstain.
And Riley, aye. Motion passes. That is that for the minutes of July 30th. Let us move on to the 120 Nantasket modification request. So this is a request in the building's condo documents to allow short-term rental of individual units. I will start with Chris. If you have kind of any introductory information, then I will probably hear from the applicant, I assume, and then we will go to questions from the board.
Sure. So yeah, this is for 120 Nantasket. Is the aquarium building. One of the conditions of approval when it came to the planning board was that the board would review the condominium documents. And there were certain things that the planning board required that they have in there. This was not one of the conditions that was required, but since the board did review all the condo docs, the thought was that if they're going to make a revision, that they should come back before the board So it's still gonna, it's a condominium building. It's still gonna be a condominium building. There's just some residents, I think, that want to rent their units, for less than 30 days. So right now, the condominium documents, restrict that to more than 1 month or 30 days. And Jonathan Levitt's here tonight, making that request to remove that section from the condominium documents.
There you go. Okay, I have to tap this button to speak. Can you hear me?
Yes.
For some reason, my video was stopped. I don't, anyway. So, yes, the 1 month term was actually something that we wanted to put in there. We thought that selling them as condominiums, that the buyers would not want other owners to have short-term rentals, but that hasn't proved to be the case. People are coming and wanting to buy units and asking about their ability to do short-term rentals. I think for whatever reason, maybe the world is changing, people's views are changing, and I'm not expecting it to be a controversial point, but we're really doing this in response to interest from buyers. It was originally our idea that we would have a restriction, and we're now thinking that I'd rather leave it up to the condo board to decide. It doesn't mean there will be short-term rentals. It just means it's not restricted by the town.
Okay, with that, Jonathan, thank you. I will, Chris, I will just mention it. So it looks like we just have a section of the condo doc in front of us in the
Correct.
Dropbox.
Correct. And
Okay,
I also, I neglected to mention that short-term rentals are allowed in the commercial rec and business zones in town. So
can you just for a reminder for those of us who are having trouble remembering things these days, which includes me, how short is short term? What defines short term? Maybe for those playing along at home too.
there's no specific definition in Hull. It's basically over 30 days or under 30 days. So within the single family districts, you're not allowed to rent for less than 30 days. So that's considered, anything less than that's considered short term. But in the business districts and commercial districts, you are allowed to do it.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, I will ask the board members just as always keep things concise, but Lisa, let's start with you.
Thanks. I wanted to check on a couple things first. Is the building still owned by Mr. Levitt and his partner, or did they actually sell it to another owner? Is he there?
He looks,
I also wanted to know that
I was on mute, Lisa. I'm sorry. Before you continue, not to interrupt you, but Jonathan is on mute and he's trying to speak, and I was on mute.
Okay.
So if we can let Jonathan through me, if you're willing to answer, and then Lisa, I'll return to your questions.
No, I got it. I think you can hear me now. No, we still own it. There was an incorrect report in the paper. I don't know how it happened. It was reported that the building is sold. No, we are still sticking with Plan A. It's still for sale as condos.
And how many units?
And we still own it.
How many units are sold at this point?
We have 4 under agreement or closed, and a few more in the pipeline.
And should I assume that you do have a certificate of occupancy now, that all of the
Yes.
things are finished on it? You do have that?
It's all finished and fully certificate of occupancy. Yes,
Okay.
we had that. We've had that for some time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Jean.
typically when a change like this comes into the board, The first thing we have to determine, is this a minor or a major change? So I think that should be something the board is considering right now. Do we consider this a minor change or a major change? And move forward from there.
Yes, I do agree, Jean, that that's sort of what's in front of us tonight is determining if this is a major or minor modification. If it's major, then I believe, we would need to have a public hearing around that. Is that everyone else's understanding as well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, Nathan is giving the thumbs up to indicate that is also his understanding. Lisa, just before I go to you, any other board members have an initial comment before we come back around? Hearing, Nancy, you're good? Okay. All right, let's come back around. Lisa?
Yeah, I wasn't, of course, involved with this decision. I did look at it in the design review board, so I do know about it. The only thought that occurs to me right off the bat about whether or not the board would consider it major or minor is the fact that both rental properties and condos are permitted in this zoning district. So it's not like and Chris is saying that short-term rentals are allowed in this district. So in that respect, it doesn't seem like it's a major change from what would have been allowed anyway.
Okay. Any other thoughts from board members? We don't have any other thoughts from board members. Maybe I will just go around and see if there's any comment from the public on this before we move forward. Actually, Jean, let's hear from Jean and then we'll go and see if there's anyone else.
Well, I understand that, yes, the short-term rentals are allowed in this area. We did approve condos and we did approve them with no less than 1 month rental. And I believe that changes the whole tenor of the property. And I would like to make a motion that we consider it a major change.
Okay, we have a motion from Paquin. Do we have a second to that motion? This is a motion to consider this change to eliminate the phrase "and for a term of not less than 1 month" as to consider it a major modification. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
I have a second by French. So I have a motion by Paquin and a second by French. Any discussion? And I'm just looking to see where hands are up. Jean, is your hand up for a discussion or?
I will wait if there's other people with their hands up and make comments afterwards.
Nathan, did you have your hand up for discussion previously? Or did you put it back?
I put my hand back down. I'm fine. I apologize. I'm lagging a bit here.
Okay, no worries. I see that Abby's hand is up. No, Abby. This is discussion of the motion. And you might be on mute.
I'm sorry. I think that if we do allow this, there will be a lot of other buildings in these zones lining up to do the same. Just a thought.
Okay. Lisa and then Jean.
Is there any way that we could oppose this change to the condo agreement, this one change about allowing short-term rentals without the board considering it as a major modification and holding hearings? Is there any way we could say basically no to this change without a full-on hearing?
So I think just a reminder, the motion in front of us is to consider it a major modification. But I think,
Still asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could say it's a minor change and we don't approve it. I mean, you could, you know.
right. But if we, I think if we are saying it's a major modification, then we would need to have the hearing. So I think we need to resolve whether or not we think it's major or minor, and then proceed on how to address. If it's a minor modification, then we vote on it. If it's major, then we need to bring it through another process and then vote on it. Does that help, Lisa?
I just wanted to confirm what he said. So we could vote for this to be a minor modification, and we could reject this change allowing short-term rentals. We could do that, right?
Yeah, you could do
Okay.
that.
Thanks.
Jean?
Yeah, a point on that. I think we could just say no to it, just not accept the change. I think going with declaring it a major change would be that we could get feedback from citizens who live in the area to see how they feel it would affect their quality of life. I have been in places and actually stayed at some place that was a condo that was doing short-term rentals, and it did not necessarily have a great feel to it. So I'm very concerned about it, but I'm certainly willing to listen to the feelings of other board members and certainly input from the town.
Okay. Lisa?
It is right across the street from the small motel, which obviously has short-term rentals. And it is, and I'm not saying, I'm just putting ideas out there, just thoughts that come to my mind. It is a very public area. It is a major parking area, very public end of the beach. And there is the motel, which is very sweet and charming across the street. And there are not a lot of homes right there, except for the ones that are above on the hill above. And I don't think they're, yeah, with multifamily there, the condos up there above the hill. So I'm not sure that a lot of residents close by would feel any sort of impact. But I'm not saying that I think it's a good thing. I'm just putting my thoughts out there.
Thank you, Lisa. I do just want to say I want to make sure that we're voting right now on the motion to call this a major modification. So I just want to make sure we're kind of focusing our comments on whether this is major and minor, and then we'll move on to the comments around should we approve or not approve. Nathan?
I'm happy to remain silent and just vote at this point. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So is there anyone from the public who has anything to say on whether or not this is a major or minor modification? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to take a roll call vote. And again, this is on the motion to determine this as a major modification. So that was a motion by Paquin and a second by French. Abby?
I knew you were going to start with me. Kleeman, nay.
Okay. Boyce?
Voice yay.
Okay. French?
French nay.
Okay, so far we have 2 nays, 1 yay. Paquin?
Yes.
Okay, Peyton,
Hayden, nay, no.
okay, and we do not have Chandel, so I will vote on, I will say nay, that this is not a major modification, so the motion fails. So that returns us to previous conversation. So the board has determined that this is not a major modification, therefore, ergo making it a minor modification. So now the question is, do we want to proceed with approving or disapproving? Does anyone question that? We're all on the same page? Okay, great. Abby?
This is a question through the chair for Mr. Or attorney, I don't know, Levitt. Are all of the people under contract aware of this potential change? And are they okay with it?
That's a good question. I actually do not know the answer to it. I mean, we're doing this in response to requests from potential buyers. People are asking about it, whether those specific people were notified and so forth. I don't know, but they're not a majority of the board because the majority is still owned by the original owners. In other words, I'm still a majority of the board.
Okay, thank you.
Jean?
Yeah, I would just say, and I totally understand what Lisa said relative. There's a small hotel across the way, and that has been a hotel for years, and it works as such. But we also have condos up above. We have homes adjacent. We have condos across the street, and I just think that this will perhaps almost turn into some type of a hotel situation, which is not what the board approved. How is this going to change the marketing plan of this building is of concern. And, we always talk about we would like people to come to town, move to town, become members of the community. And this certainly does not seem as though it would be heading in that direction. And that's why I had proposed calling it a major change and looking for more community input.
Okay, Lisa?
I think it's still a nice thing, to rent for over 30 days. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm surprised, that some people consider it 30 days a short term. I think 30 days, a month, at least for a month during the summers is a reasonable thing. I think it's a reasonable thing. So I would be inclined to not approve this change. Again, just putting it out there. But I really want to hear what others think.
Okay. Jean?
I would agree with Lisa. I have no quarrel with the 30 days. It's when you get to less. And is this going to be some kind of a churn with people in for 1 day, 2 day, a week, in and out and in and out? And it just changes the whole tenor of what we approved.
Other comments from the board? Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, Christopher's iPhone. Please say your name and address. I know it's not a public hearing, but still.
Miss Christopher Sweeney, 219 Atlantic Ave. No, I just want to say that I agree with Jean Paquin, and I think that's a good idea, like she was saying, to get the more public feedback from the neighborhood. and go with that. And because if you turn it into that, who's going to enforce the 30 days on the rentals? That would be an issue. Someone would have to be enforcing that all the time to make sure that they're not renting it out on a week's basis, or 2 weeks or a day or whatever. That's all I'm saying. So I'd like to say I agree with her, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, I will, is there a motion from the board at this time? Lisa?
I'd like to make a motion that we deny this change to the condo documents
I'll second that.
policy.
Okay, we have a motion by French to deny the modification to the condo documents, and we have a second by Paquin. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will go to a roll call vote. I will start with someone that's not Abby because I don't want to have a pattern. So let's start with Lisa.
French, aye.
Okay. Boyce? Nancy Boyce?
Aye.
Okay. Jean Paquin?
Aye.
Okay. Nathan Payton?
Aye.
Okay. Abby Kleeman? You're on mute.
I'm gonna vote nay.
Okay. And Megan Riley, nay. So I think that's three ayes and 2 nays.
Four.
Or
I'm sorry, 4 ayes and 2 nays. All right, the motion passes. So the modification is not approved. I'm sorry, Mr. Levitt, but thank you for coming and
Okay. Thank you.
thank you. All right. Moving on to our next agenda item, we have the master plan discussion. So we have several bullet points related to this. First of which is the finalization of the master plan phase 1 feedback for MAPC and next steps. So in our last meeting, we had discussed, we had made a motion, which was passed to send the master plan phase 1 feedback draft, making very clear that it was a draft, to the town manager, which I have done. And added a large watermark that said draft with the indication that we would not want to share it with MAPC quite yet. The follow-up to that is that we need to finalize it so that we can move forward with sharing that feedback more broadly. So this discussion is around, is there anything that is still left to do to finalize that document so that we can share it more broadly, both with MAPC and also with our steering committee. I will open the floor for discussion from the board. Lisa.
I looked a little bit more at the subcommittee's items that they found that were problematic, and they're very thorough. They're very good. I also, though, when I look at the progress that I made in going through the phase 1 document, I found other issues that I think are very important. Some of them are issues of formatting and language, but the other things are, I'm very concerned about the process that was used for phase 1 and how much information I think the master plan has to be working with. We have to be working with before we go forward to a second phase. Like, for instance, I don't think that enough stakeholders were involved in feedback. I seriously think that we need to get input from every town board, committee, and commission relative to their area that they focus on. And if they have thoughts about the long-term goals or preferences. I don't think the interviews were appropriate. I don't think they were thorough for all the people that really should be interviewed on this. I think they were too selective. And one thing, I mean, I guess we'll get around to talking about the steering committee, but I thought that I can see a role for the steering committee now at this point to actually represent the boards or the organizations that they're designated for, not just representing themselves as they were instructed by MAPC, but really representing the groups that they're part of and taking information back to those groups and bringing information from those groups to try to fill out all this information that we need. We also need a lot of current, accurate information about the current what is it, status, the current situation in the town. There are just some areas where there's just not enough information about the current conditions. I think the planning board, before anything, should look at the phase 1 document and consider how we feel it might need to be expanded. My thought.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. So I want to suggest, Lisa brings up some very, very good points. And I want to suggest that we sort of frame this in our minds as, what do we need to discuss in terms of what do we need to do going forward? And then also, but within the 4 corners of the, sort of phase 1 report that we've received, what do we need to do to kind of finalize that companion document so that we can send that along? So maybe, Lisa, perhaps you have an addendum to the addendum, or we somehow work those comments in. I just want to make sure we're thinking about sort of the report and our feedback on, here's our feedback on the report you gave us, and then our feedback, which is also valid, but kind of in a different bucket of, here's our concern with your process and those things. Does that make sense? What do folks think of that? Lisa?
Can I thank you for that? I understand your point. The thing is, I think that the planning board needs to discuss the subcommittee's recommendations. I think the board needs to be involved in looking at this, and we need to have some discussion before we pass it along. And I know that some people don't want to spend the time, but I think it's important to have a lot of voices in on this so that everybody understands and we have a consensus on the issues that are the most important, and we all understand what's in those suggestions and what's in the original document, a public discussion about it.
Yeah, to be clear, Lisa, I think that's what I'm intending for us to have now. I just want to make sure that we're sort of thinking about the scope of that document, which was to sort of provide feedback on the phase 1 report. So we might be saying very similar things, but I agree that right now we want to have that discussion around what do we need to do with that companion document to the phase 1 report so that we can get it so we're all in agreement to move forward. Abby and then Nathan.
Mr. Rogers. 5 years.
So I'm wondering if anyone else on the board, in addition to Lisa, has had an opportunity to really go into it and dive deeply. It's been months and we need to get moving. So we need to Someone's got something going on in the background. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
distracting.
Not speaking, if you can please put yourself on mute, Abby.
Thank you. Sorry. So time is of the essence. We need to have a plan put together. And I'm not saying that without identifying, I'm not saying we shouldn't identify areas where we need more information, but I think that because that's all part of this, right? But we also need to know who we're going to be working with moving forward, and we need to get all of that going. So I think we need to finalize this document, even if we leave placeholders for, we need more information here, we need more information here, we need more information here, and just finalize it, get it to MAPC and see what their response is to it. Because there is a whole set of budget issues as well. If for some reason we don't end up working with MAPC, we're going to need to apply for funds from the town. And I want to be able to have a plan B. I don't want to be backed into a corner simply because of timing. We need to do the right thing for this town, and we need to get moving on it because it is not fair that it is taking as long as it's taking us.
Okay. I think that what we're trying to do here right now with this agenda item is what you and Lisa and I have described, which is finalize that document. Nathan put his hand down. I'll go to Lisa, and then I'll suggest that maybe we bring up the document, share your screen, and we can do the business of working through it and getting it to where it needs to be tonight, right here. Lisa.
It was just the last thing that I heard, honestly heard this at one of the first meetings when I was on the board, from the subcommittee, was that they made an honest, sincere effort to ask MAPC if they would make any revisions to that part, to that phase 1 document. And what I heard in that meeting very clearly was that MAPC refused to do that. So it sounds like, I don't know, other people have discussed something else since then, but that was the last I heard on the board, was that MAPC refused to make changes. So I don't understand how Abby is suggesting we send this to MAPC when they said they wouldn't revise it.
Okay, I do think, and I'm trying to stay with everybody here, but as you know, as the board knows, Abby and I did have a meeting with Jen Constable where she did say that, she would bring this report to MAPC to push them on providing that feedback. Abby, you're shaking your head, but I was in that meeting with Jen, so I did hear her say that. Do you have a comment, or?
I have a slightly different recollection.
Okay. Let me finish and then we'll go to Chris, and but that was my understanding, is that we could provide a report, and then we could have a meeting with MAPC to try and see what can be done. I mean, my feeling on this is that we've been working with an agency. They have not given us what we wanted. And so before we do anything else, we should try and rectify that. Whether or not we take different steps for phase 2, we should not just walk away from phase 1 saying, oh, so I think that's the path forward. So I will go to Chris, and then Abby, and then Nathan, and then I think we should either, I'm confused as to whether or not we are now talking as a board about whether or not it is futile to try and update the subcommittee's report, or if we think that is still a good exercise to do, in which case we should do it. So, Chris?
Thanks. So I think what you guys have done up to this point is good. I mean, they provided this draft document that they are eventually going to incorporate into a final report. You guys went through it. You identified all the concerns that you had. I think that that chart is good. I think it's pretty comprehensive. We send that to them. They have all these things that they know they need to incorporate into this document.
I'm sorry.
In the meantime,
Abby, please, you have to
Yeah.
wait to be recognized by the chair.
in the
I didn't
meantime,
hear
Like
what
Chris finished,
Chris
and then
said.
I will recognize you, Abby. Chris, go ahead.
and then in the meantime, so they have that information. They know what they have to do to update it. We can progress onwards, knowing that that information will be included at the end. And because I don't feel like we need to edit these documents over and over again. That'll be a document at the end that we can edit when they incorporate those things. If we see more issues, we can incorporate it then. But I just feel like it's like we're going around and around in circles with this thing and kind of not, getting to the real meat of the plan, which is goals, objectives, vision. We're just kind of stuck in this existing conditions world.
Okay, Abby.
My couple of things. First of all, my recollection of the conversation is that we were going to share with the town manager, but that any conversations with MAPC were going to be with us as well, not just the town manager and MAPC. And the question that I had has this already been shared with MAPC?
First of all, Abby, I'm going to answer your question. I sorry, because I thought that's what I was getting across, was that I felt like we were saying the same thing, so I'm not sure where the breakdown is, but I agree with you that was the discussion. Maybe I misunderstood. I don't know. I mean, it should not have been, because I was very clear that we did not want it shared with MAPC. So I'm going to assume that it has not.
I wanted to clarify with Chris, though.
Chris, could you please clarify?
Were you saying that it already had been shared with them?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Nathan.
Hi, folks. Sorry for the terrible connection tonight. I hope you can hear me. I think it's time to move forward, right? I don't think we are going to get to a point where we understand and know what exactly we want to do next until we take the next step. It's been a really long time that everyone has had this report. I've read it, I think, twice and probably forgotten about 50% of it at this point, to be honest with you. And I think it's fine for it to be a draft that we send out to MAPC. I think it's fine that it be a draft that we start to share back with the master planning committee members to have a conversation with them. And I think we just need to start taking next steps in talking with folks, admitting that we don't know what's next. Because I think that's how we're going to learn, through a conversation with MAPC, a conversation with the Master Steering Committee, and a conversation with each other, what we're going to do next. I think we have to have a real honest conversation about what we want our level of involvement to be. What are we committing to? How much do we want to rely on the provider, in this case, MAPC? How much do we want to rely on what was the Master Planning Steering Committee? Do we think that's still a good idea? Do we think it needs to have other meeting members? Do we want it to be town boards overall? Send it down.
Oh, Nathan, we lost you.
Unless we start taking steps to get
Yeah, you're breaking up a little, Nathan.
something else, rather than just waiting and hoping it all comes to us in our head, I guess.
Nathan, you broke up a little there, but I think we I don't know if you want to repeat kind of your last couple of sentiments, or I think folks kind of got the spirit of the message, but okay. I'm going to go to Jean.
Hi, yeah. I struggle with this, but I do feel that somewhere along the way we got lost. The Master Plan Steering Committee in my looking around, looking at other towns and so on and so forth, that committee is supposed to be advising on the plan, driving community engagement, overseeing consultants, setting priorities, and then recommending something for us to adopt. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not involved along the way. Certainly, we can, attend meetings of the master plan steering committee. But some days I feel I vacillate. Some days I feel like we get lost in the weeds. Some days I feel like it's analysis paralysis. And we had a great group of people who are ready to step up and work. And I think it's time to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Jean. I do want to notice, and maybe I'm just being a stickler for my bullet points tonight, so I apologize. Everyone can bear with me, but I'm going to talk about the steering committee. But before we talk about that steering committee, I want to resolve this item around the finalization of the master plan phase 1 feedback for MAPC and the next steps. So I'm going to go to Jen and then Abby, and then I think we probably need to figure out a path forward, whether that's bringing it up and whether we vote on, do we think it's good, or we still want to iterate on it, or if we're going to iterate, let's iterate tonight. Let's get it done. So Jen.
Thanks, Megan. Just wanted to address a couple of questions that came up. I agree, Meg, that was the conversation that you, myself, and Abby had, was that the planning board was going to finalize their comments on the initial document that was submitted by MAPC, which I believe I do have. And excuse me, those could be communicated with MAPC once there was a determination confirmed about some of the changes that the planning board wanted to see going forward. I want to reiterate for the planning board that the phase 1, consistent with the contract, are really setting out the existing conditions. And I think somebody referenced earlier, it's time to get into the meat of it. So I would just encourage the planning board to not get too ahead of the process, because phase 1 is just assessing where we're at. I did have a question for you, Meg. What you submitted to me was comments, a companion document. So this is not, are these comments from the planning board? But I don't think I have the document, that the referencing document.
The phase 1 report from MAPC.
Correct.
I don't know. I guess I assumed you did have that.
No. So I think that would be helpful to have, because otherwise the comments don't.
Yes, if you don't have the document that's referencing those comments, will not mean much to you. So right. I think that makes good sense. Sorry, I had assumed that the phase 1 report had, was for some. I don't know why I would assume that. Actually, it makes sense.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah, we don't mind forwarding it. That would be helpful.
Yep.
And to my knowledge, also MAPC does not have this document, but I assume it's public record at this point, since the planning board is discussing it and may have been in your packets this evening. And then just also on the money piece, I know that came up with I think somebody said there's the money issue. At this point in time, the full phase 1 and phase 2 are funded. And so $90,000 was spent on the first phase, which again is sort of compiling the existing conditions. And I think that's, money spent. It's pretty straightforward, phase 1, and would encourage planning board to not honestly take too lightly that we've spent $90,000 of taxpayer money in some form or fashion on phase 1.
Yeah, Jen, just quickly, if I may, I think I think you, me, and Abby are saying the same thing, but just to make sure, I think when there is a conversation with MAPC, I think the planning board wants to obviously be a part of that, to as part of addressing that deliverable. I think we're all on the same page there. Just to I can send, or Chris can send to you, probably easier if Chris does, the phase 1 report that the comments accompany. And I would just note that, yes, while it is in our packet tonight and we are discussing, and kind of my email was just that we're trying to get to the point where the board is in agreement that yes, it's okay to advance to MAPC. So we agreed everyone was okay with sharing it with you. Now tonight we're trying to get to that agreement of, are we ready to advance it to MAPC? So
Sure.
that's where we're gonna get to. I lost the order. I'm sorry. So I will go to Lisa and then Jean and then Abby.
I actually think that Abby was before me.
Okay, I'm okay. If you are okay with that, I will go to Abby first. Okay, thank you, Lisa. Abby, and then Lisa, and then Jean.
Just to clarify something that was said, as far as the existing conditions are, yes, we definitely need to move forward and not look back. However, the existing conditions document was a mess. It was inaccurate. It was incomplete. It was using reference documents that were out of date or did not have any, did not have an author or a date or a title. So these are all things that still need to be straightened out, because in order to have phase 2 that's built upon phase 1, phase 1 has to be good, and phase 1 was not good. So I just want to clarify, that's why we're looking back, and we're $90,000 of taxpayers' money was spent. And you know what? The taxpayers really got the short end of the stick, because the work that was done for $90,000 was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And so I think, in my mind, the only reason to go back to MAPC at this point is to make sure that Hull gets its money's worth and that they correct the errors and the things that really should have been in phase 1.
Okay, I'm going to go to Lisa and then Jean.
Yeah, I'm trying to do what you want to do, Megan. There's several things here that I feel clear about. I think the planning board has to discuss and approve the work of the subcommittee before that is actually given to anyone, shared with anyone. And I mean, with the MAPC. And I do feel that we have to allow for additional input, in case there is some, on that corrections to that phase 1 document. I also think it seems pretty clear that the planning board needs to know if contrary to what they were told months ago, that MAPC would be willing to make corrections, and the planning board needs to know if they would be charged additional for doing that. That would be, we really need to know that. I don't think we should send anything to anyone, share it, unless we know if they're actually going to not do phase 2, but just make the corrections as a first step. Make the corrections that we're asking for and find out if that's going to cost something and how much that's going to cost. And the last thing that I'm clear about is I do not agree with what Chris was talking about. I do not think that the planning board should leave these requested corrections and additions with MAPC for phase 1 and move on to phase 2 and wait to see a completed document at the end. In other words, wait to see the corrections and the additions that we feel are necessary in phase 1. We should not wait. We should not go ahead with MAPC for phase 2 and wait to the end to see if those corrections are made. I don't think we should do that.
Okay. Chris, through me, if you want to respond to that question that Lisa had, and then I'll go to Jean.
Yeah, I mean, this document wasn't even an established deliverable when the contract came out. So they were putting these things together to try to kind of, they knew there was going to be this little bit of a gap, and they wanted to kind of get all this information together to compile the information they have so far. And I think what you guys have done is right on the money. I mean, they're trying to learn about the town, right? That's their goal with these first months. They put together what they found. You guys, knowing more about the town than they do, have gone through and identified the issues that they had with this plan. So they have that document they produced. They're going to have the comments from you guys to provide clarity for them. So they know that I don't think there's a need for the planning board to go and redraft this document. They know the changes that need to be made. They're aware because of that chart. But like, I feel like to keep going back and forth with this, we're stuck. We're stuck with existing conditions that we won't get to the end of this and move on to where we need to be. I mean, we can ask them, do you want to make some changes to the, if they're easy things to update, that's fine. But if they're major issues, that's things that they're going to have to iron out, and with the board and with the steering committee when the final document comes out.
Okay. I'm going to go to Jean now.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is this report, which I'll admit I was not entirely pleased with, but if that wasn't a listed deliverable, in other words, are you insinuating, Chris, that it's kind of a courtesy thing, kind of a, hey, this is where we're at now, but
Right.
It was not part of we will be delivering you a phase 1 report.
Right. That was not, all right, we're done with phase 1 and now we're going to do this stuff. We're going to attach them together. It's not what that document was.
Okay. I guess what I need to do is I can't find the phase 1 report. So you're going to have to get me a copy of it. I don't have it anymore.
Jean, if I may, just to, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do think we have a master planning folder that has I believe the phase 1 report is in there. Is
okay.
it just so you have it? And I apologize for interrupting, and we can move on. Please continue.
No, Meg, thank you very much. And I was flipping through things and I missed it. So I do have it now. Thank you. I just am truly concerned that we seem to be spinning our wheels. And I do believe that we need to inform them of the issues that we have, but I do believe that we need to start moving this forward. And knowing, I mean, we all of us sitting here know of our concerns with that phase 1 and that they cannot be carried on. And if we know it, we've articulated it to them, and we get a sense they hear us. And if the steering committee is aware, I mean, perhaps it's just time to move forward, people. And I have to say, and as I've said, I have not been entirely thrilled with some aspects of this, but we have a long history of working with the MAPC. And I hesitate now to start running off in another direction, to be perfectly honest. We've had a great relationship, and maybe we just got off on the wrong foot from either direction. But I think that this also needs to get to the master plan steering committee. Like, we're the managers. We're not the in the trenches people on this.
Okay. Jen?
Thanks. Excuse me, Meg. I'll be brief. I just wanted to lend some support to what Chris had said earlier. This was not the phase 1 document was not a deliverable in the contract, and it's not something that's typically done during a master planning process. It was in fact done as a courtesy based upon MAPC hearing the planning board's concerns and request for a draft document as to where they were on phase 1. So that is accurate. And I just I feel like I have to say, Jean's correct. There is a long history. I know there have been questions about MAPC. I just want to reiterate that MAPC is Hull's regional planning agency. The town pays an assessment to the organization to do this type of work and be a resource for the community that we do in fact have a very long history with. Doesn't mean every work product that comes out or relationship is great. They are very open, and I think they have been and are listening to the concerns of the planning board, and are very open to making some adjustments. I think in terms of sharing the document with them, the only way they can be responsive to some of the concerns is to know exactly what the comments were and to understand what the concerns are specifically from the planning board. And I just want to caution about being disparaging to an agency or a consultant that we are working with. I think the work product that was put out as a courtesy, I think it's subjective as to, you know, statements about the quality of work. So I would just ask members of the board to be mindful of comments like that.
Okay, I'm going to go to Lisa, and then I am going to interject after Lisa's thoughts with my own thoughts, and then I will come around to Abby. Lisa, go ahead.
Thanks. I know that we are allowed to comment on the performance of outside consultants. I know that we're allowed to comment. We're allowed to talk about what we see. We're absolutely allowed to say that. And just coming at this, I mean, I didn't see the phase 1 document until I was on the board for the first time. I saw it, and it's substantially problematic. And it's clear that a lot of the problems with it have to do with the fact that the planning board was not involved when it started designing the scope, formatting the steering committee. They were not instructing. They were not working with MAPC. The planning board came on board later, after things were underway. And a lot of the things that I see that are a problem in the phase 1 document are misunderstandings, not just mistakes, but misunderstandings, fundamental misunderstandings about the difference between boards and town employees, for instance. Looking at the information they put together, and as others have said, the plans that were accepted as existing conditions, the plans that were never implemented, assumed to be an existing condition. They did not do good work, and I'm sorry that the town has spent so much money on that work. I would really like to go forward. My way of going forward would be to try to see what we can salvage from that work that MAPC did, what we're allowed to use, legally allowed to use, to find out if we give MAPC a list of corrections to make on that phase 1 document, will they make it, and how much will they charge us, without a commitment to have MAPC go forward with the second phase. Because I honestly, sincerely do not think, I think there are a lot of consultants out there that could help our planning board put together a really good master plan. I just do not think that this is the best option for us. I don't think we should accept it. We've got their product, whatever you want to call it, finalized or not. We've got that to look at. And I don't think that they are the group to continue on this with us. I want to use the steering committee. I think that they are important, but I do not think that the planning board should not be involved. I think the planning board needs to be involved, needs to be deciding, making the big decisions, making the plans about how to do this, and working with the steering committee to assist with, like I said, collecting information, not just meeting and greeting members of the public out there, shaking hands, laughing, saying hi. I think that the steering committee, they have expertise in different areas. I think that we should use them for, collecting some of the information that we want.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm just clinging to life to my bullet points here. I would like to talk about the steering committee. I would like to talk about next steps. I would like us to move forward. So I think my opinion on the matter is we should either have someone should make a motion to, say, you know what, we're going to advance the draft of the subcommittee feedback to MAPC. And, we can figure out what we're going to do with them around, are we going to correct phase one? Are we just going to leave phase one? I don't know. Or we should say, you know what, we're going to bring it up right here, right now, and get the board to where the board needs to be able to do that. And then we need to talk about the steering committee. But I want to resolve this item first. So I will go to Nathan and then I will go to Lisa. Nathan.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to skip the whole entire issue of MAPC and whether or not we should use them as a consultant going forward. What I do know is that we've had a fellow government agency do this work. We, in some ways, have paid them. I think some of it was grants. We have a document. We have a document that helps explain the failures in that document, that document, the things that we dislike and think just simply disagree with. I just don't see the value. I don't think we're building collaboration with our partners here or with anyone in the town. We're not building any trust when it's been months.
Oh, we lost you, Nathan. Oh. Nathan, we can't hear you. Nathan. All right. Why don't we, Nathan, we're not able to hear you. So I think I will move on to Lisa and then we'll come back if you're able to re-engage.
So we release it publicly.
Oh, you're there. Okay. Sorry. We weren't able to hear you for that last piece.
Well, my apologies. If you can hear me now, I think it's important that we build collaboration, that we build some trust, that we not have this document hiding. And I would move that we released this document, its companion, and release a cover letter to it, explaining, explaining what it is, and we release it everywhere. Give it to MAPC, give it back to the Master Planning Steering Committee, release it to the public. We've spent their money, and we want them to be involved in the process. There's no sense in hiding this any longer.
Okay, Nathan, so I just want to clarify, is your motion to move forward the companion document or the phase one document or both?
Both, with a cover letter.
With a cover letter to MAPC.
Open cover letter to all.
An open cover
figure
letter.
Out what's in it, but we say, hey, we know this is incomplete, or we want your help working on this going forward.
Okay, so we have a motion to, with a cover letter, move the phase one report and the companion document forward to MAPC and basically the public. Is that your motion, Nathan?
Yes, MAPC, the Master Planning Steering Committee, and the public at large.
Okay.
Second.
We have a second by, was that Paquin? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, motion by Payton, second by Paquin. All right, we're going to go into discussion now. So Susan, this is discussion with the board, so we'll come back after we resolve the motion that's been made. I'll start with Lisa.
Well, I was going to make a different motion. I'm not sure if I should make a substitute motion or just wait for the group to vote on this.
It's up to you. If you make a substitute motion, you will need a second, then we'll have discussion on that. We'll resolve the substitute motion first, and then we'll go back to the original motion.
Oh, come on.
Sorry. If you are not speaking or a member of the board, please go on mute. I assume that the "oh, come on" is in response to something that is happening in your own home, and that you have dropped something. Okay. All right. So, Lisa, go ahead.
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Whoever is speaking, please go on mute.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to have the planning board contact MAPSI and find out exactly what corrections they would be willing to make to that phase 1 document that we have for what particular price. In other words, to try to get a sense if they're willing to make the corrections, how much it will cost, with nothing else, just that. I make a motion for that.
Okay. Let me replay your motion back to you, Lisa, to make sure it's what you intend. You have made a motion to have the planning board contact MAPC and determine if they are willing to make corrections and at what cost they would, and if so, at what cost they would be willing to make those corrections. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by French. Do we have a second to that motion? Jean, are you seconding or is your hand up for discussion?
Nope.
Okay, do we have a second to the motion? Okay, we do not have a second to the motion, so I'm going to say that motion does not pass, and we will return to the main motion, which Nathan had provided, and we had a second by Paquin. So any discussion on the main motion? Lisa.
I'd like to be able to add some comments to that, the subcommittee's comments. I like the opportunity to add something to that before if it is sent to others.
So I think that would probably be a separate motion because
Well, I guess I have to make an emotion or nobody will. Okay, I'll make a substitute. Well, I'll make an amendment to the motion to allow a short window of time for any members of the planning board to add additional comments to the subcommittee's comments before, if it is sent to the steering committee and MAPSI.
Okay. Do we have a second to the amendment to allow the planning board a window of time between now and when it is sent to MAPSI to add additional comments? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Nathan.
if we are releasing it to the public, MAPC, PC, and the Master Planning Steering Committee, I would gladly accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay. So
But it's done by the next meeting.
okay, so let's get the amendment clear. All right, so in the amendment to the motion is to allow additional comments from planning board members that will need to be provided in advance of our next meeting, which is, just bring my calendar up, I believe September 9th.
Yep.
Okay, is that your amendment? All right, so we have the amendment and we have a second. Lisa, are you okay with that?
Yeah. Thanks.
Clarification to your amendment? Okay. Any discussion on the motion with the amendment? Abby?
The board has had months to add to this. I don't know what else there is to add. To wait another 2 weeks, and I don't know. I would like to get it moving. Just wanted to share that.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion with the amendment? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote on the motion, which with the amendment, motion would be to move forward the document to MAPC, steering committee, the public at large with a cover letter, with the understanding that we will have a period until the next meeting where board members can provide additional comments. And then at that time, it will be sent. So everyone, we're all in agreement with that. That is the motion in the amendment. Jean, do you have a question?
Now just a comment. I would like to see that at our next meeting, we have the cover letter composed so it is ready to go.
Okay, why don't we do this? Let's resolve this because this is getting very lengthy. Let's resolve
Okay.
it, and then we can make a further motion to
All right.
shake that out because we also need to determine who's going to write this cover letter. So let's just kind of go one at a time, so we don't get lost, or maybe just so the chair doesn't get lost. So sticking with the motion as is, I'm going to go for a roll call vote. Let's start with Boyce. Nancy Boyce.
I say no for the extension of 2 more weeks.
You can't.
Okay, so you're voting no on the motion, on the amended motion.
Yes.
Okay. Lisa French?
We're voting just on the amendment, added?
No, that's why I just clarified. Nancy is voting no on the motion with the amendment.
Okay.
Now,
So if we're voting no, we are saying we don't think that the document should be sent to the MAPC or the steering committee, right? Okay, I agree. I say no. Nay.
okay. Abby?
I'm confused, but
Would you like to send the document to MAPC and the steering committee and the public with a cover letter with additional comments that may or may not come in the aforementioned window between now and September 9th? Or would you prefer to not send it?
did we vote on adding the amendment?
Yeah,
Adding the amended
I think the
motion?
motion has the amendment in it. So if that doesn't pass, then you can make another motion
Without
to do
the amendment.
without the amendment.
Okay, no.
Okay. Jean?
I am going to vote yes. We just need to get this moving.
Okay. Nathan Payton?
Peyton votes aye.
Okay. And Riley votes aye. So we have a tie.
So it doesn't pass.
The motion does not pass. Okay. So we begin again. Abby, is your hand up?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make the original motion without the amendment.
Okay, so the original motion is to send the document as is to MAPC, the steering committee, and the public with a cover letter. Do we have a second? I think I heard a second from Paquin. Okay. Motion by Kleeman, second by Paquin. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to a vote. Nancy?
Aye.
Okay. Lisa? You're on mute.
Nay.
Okay. Abby?
Aye.
I said nay.
I'm sorry.
I said nay.
Yes, you did say nay. Nay. I'm sorry. Did I say something else?
I thought you said aye. I said no. I meant no. I said nay.
Nay, no, it's clear to me that's
Okay,
what
good.
but I'm sorry if I'm tired. I'm just
You're good.
fading a little bit. Abby.
Aye.
Okay. Jean?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
Okay. And Riley, aye. So that motion passes. Okay. I now would like to just discuss, and I think we can then make our motion to kind of tack on to this. If there's a cover letter, who is going to write the cover letter?
I can draft something for you guys.
Okay, the only problem with that, Chris, and while I appreciate it, is that if you draft it, we've got to then have everybody take a look at it and add their comments and feedback. So just putting that out there, not saying no or yes, just putting that out there. Abby?
I'm happy to draft it using more diplomatic language than I used during the meeting today.
Jane?
I would just say, regardless of who drafts it, we're all going to want to read it before it is sent.
That's very true, actually. That is very true.
So, whether it be Chris, Abby, anybody, it will have to be reviewed by everybody. I would imagine I would want to review it, and I can't imagine anybody sitting here would not want to review it.
Yes, that's a good point, Jean.
So that said, it really doesn't matter to me who does it. We need to do it. We need to figure out how it's going to be distributed, whether Abby writes it, she gives it to Chris, Chris distributes it to board members, and people remember how you can make any comments about it, or we just wait and approve it at our next meeting. It will just wait and have our edits at the meeting.
Nathan?
I'm not passionate, but this is one where I would appreciate Chris and his writing the letter, in part because I think they understand the appropriate tone to communicate with a fellow government entity.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to have Chris write a first draft, and then to circulate that with the board for feedback, to be provided, no later than our next meeting. So that is the motion I am making. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Paquin. So motion by Riley, second by Paquin. Discussion. Lisa?
I'd much rather have Abby write it if she's willing to. Much rather have her write it, draft it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Jean, is your hand up for discussion or just sort of a legacy hand raise?
Just a question relative to, I want to make sure that I was clear. I think that whoever should draft this, we should have it and we come to the meeting with our edits so that everybody gets a feel for who thought what, when, where, why, as opposed to if we send edits to a person, then whoever, whether it be Abby or Chris, is making decisions about perhaps whose edits will be accepted and not. So I just think that we have this letter well in advance. Everybody please review it before the meeting and let's get it nailed down.
Okay, I will amend my motion to be that I make a motion that town staff, Chris Diorio, draft the cover letter for the reports and provide the draft to the board no later than Thursday of next week, and that the board then come to our September 9th meeting with their own comments to discuss and finalize the letter. Is there a second to my amended motion?
Second.
Okay, motion by Riley, second by Paquin. Any discussion? Lisa?
I'd like to make a substitute motion to just change that it's Abby that drafts this instead of Chris Diorio.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion for Abby to draft the letter.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No, we're not having the computers participate. That's a step too far. Okay. Abby, so the substitute motion would then be to have Abby draft a cover letter for the reports that would be provided to the board no later than Thursday next week, so that the board can prepare their comments to then bring them for discussion to finalize the letter in our meeting on September 9th. Now, that would be up to Abby whether or not she can do that, but do I have a second for that motion from Lisa French? Second from Kleeman. So we have a motion by French, second from Kleeman. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing no discussion, I will go to a roll call vote. So again, this is a motion for Abby to draft a letter to be sent to the board no later than next Thursday, so the board can provide their comments and we can finalize the letter in our meeting on September 9th. Nancy, how do you vote?
Nay.
Okay. Jean?
No.
Okay. Abby?
Aye.
Okay. Lisa?
Aye.
Okay. Nathan? Nathan, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Nathan, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Okay, we will go to Riley. I don't care who does it at this point. Nathan, do you have a vote?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Oh, apologies, Megan, if you couldn't hear me. I voted aye.
Okay, so
Let's get this out the door.
We have aye from Nathan, aye from Riley. Abby, what is your point of order?
Oh, just that my understanding is that if there is difficulty with a connection for a member of the board, that that person can't be a full participant in the meeting because they can't necessarily hear. I could be incorrect, but that was my understanding. And Chris, I don't know if you know the answer to that, but
I don't, but he's seemed like he's been pretty, he's gone out a few times, but just voted for you, so I'd go with it.
I know. I just.
Okay, I'm going to accept Nathan's vote. I believe that he was able to hear and reply to what we said. Yes, there was a pause, but and we will move on. So the motion passes. So Abby, you have your directive. So we look forward to a draft by Thursday of the cover letter. All right. I would like to move on. Yes, I'm sorry.
Just one thing, we have to be careful. Abby, that letter should be sent to Chris and Chris distributes.
Yes, I'm aware. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I like to make everyone aware. That's how we do it.
Good. Well, that's also
how we do it.
Yeah, that's how open meeting law works. So that's how we do it. I would like to move on to a discussion of reimagining and reconnecting with the Master Plan Steering Committee. So we have a steering committee of neighbors and citizens that was put together last year. They have been very patiently awaiting us to get back to them. People have set aside their time to participate on it with their expertise. And I personally feel that, especially given the amount of spinning that the planning board has done over the past year on this particular issue, that we would be better serving the community if we re-engage the steering committee and provide them with some very clear, roles and responsibilities of what we expect for sort of how they're approaching things, and a very clear expectations and methodology for coming back and reporting back to us as sort of a sponsorship group, but that we waste no time in re-engaging that group of people who has volunteered their time with expertise to help carry this forward. So I will take other comments from the board at this time. Abby.
I 100% agree with the caveat that other than gathering everyone and telling them that we value them and appreciate their patience with us, there is nothing that we can tell them about next steps because we don't know what they are yet.
Well, I would argue that we could engage them to help us determine those next steps. And I think that that would be a very good use of their time. It would be a service to our citizenry because it will help us move this forward with a broader group of participants who we have engaged to help us. So that would be my sort of answer to that, is that they help us determine the next steps for phase 2. Lisa.
Yeah, as I said a little bit earlier, I do also think that it would be good to involve and reactivate the steering committee, but I don't think that we can do that without first the planning board looking at what we actually have that we paid for, the information that we have in the phase 1 document, identifying which types of information we feel need to be added to that, and then meeting with the steering committee, and I think giving them more responsibility, but also allowing them to specifically research or interact with parts of the community that they already are really familiar with. And as I said before, I really think that number one, when we meet with the steering committee, we should make it clear, unlike what MAPC told them, that they should actually represent the boards or committees or organizations that they do represent. Meaning that they should take the information that they get in the steering committee meetings, take it back to their group, and they should absolutely solicit input from their groups to assist them. In other words, I think it's pointless to assign individuals the role of a representative when actually they're not representing anyone but themselves. So I don't think that it would take that much time. If it's a subcommittee that gets together and pulls out from phase 1 document and the suggested corrections, identifies a list of areas where we really need to expand on the work that was started in phase 1. For instance, the stakeholders, the stakeholders, or interviews, but interviews that go beyond mostly town employees. Interviews with people that really represent different organizations that weren't even approached before. That's my thought.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. I do want to note that Nathan has left the meeting. So due to someone questioning his ability to participate. So we are now just the 5 of us. Any other comments on the steering committee? Jean.
I just firmly believe we need to get them reconstituted, back involved, and so they can see what's happening, and let's get this moving.
Okay.
I can send out an email to them. Because we don't even know. It's been months. We don't even know who still believes that they're on this group. So at least I'll contact them and see where we are with membership and that kind of stuff, and just tell them that we're starting to, get this ball rolling again, and to expect those documents to be coming soon.
Jean?
Where do we have a list of the members, Chris? Is it on the website anyplace?
Probably.
I've been looking and I
Go
can't
look again.
find it.
Yeah, if we could have just a clear list of the members, and also I think we need to provide the members with a clear sort of charter for what we're asking them to do. And I don't, my understanding, and I have asked this before, and I've been told there is not one, so I'm going to assume there is not one, is that they do not, that we don't have a clear charter or sort of, this is your purpose, this is what we're engaging you with. Abby.
The Master Plan Steering Committee is listed on page 3 III of the phase 1 draft. And Chris, is it possible for you to copy the planning board on your communications with them?
Yep.
Thank you. Oh, and Jim Ioneary resigned from the steering committee.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Okay. Jean, do you have another comment?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, rather than look for a motion and a vote, is anyone opposed to that course of action? Having Chris sort of reach out and see who's still on and still willing to participate.
Well, that's great.
Okay. All right. It's 9 o'clock. Let's keep it, unless anyone feels differently, let's press on. At least, hopefully we can get through the majority of this discussion. So the items left under master plan would be around the budget and the phase 2 next steps. So we have had some questions about the budget. We've had some back and forth. Open the floor for discussion on the budget or questions that still need to be answered. Lisa?
Thanks. Yeah, I think what people received didn't really clarify what actually I received, I think it was yesterday, from Chris, where he actually did confirm certain things. And I think that what I asked for him to send that to the members of the board, so we all had the same information. And if I can find it now, since he didn't, if I can find it now, I want to say it so that everybody knows and understands what was said. Looking for the message. Okay. Can I go?
Yes.
Okay. So what he is saying is that well, the summary budget that we have, that we were presented a couple months ago, does make it clear, very clear, that $90,000 would be available if the planning board were to continue with MAPC, using MAPC. That was perfectly clear from then. But I know that I asked, and I think that other members of the board were asking, what funds does the planning board have for the master plan process if we should decide to use some other consultant to assist instead of MAPC? That's what I was asking for. So Chris has said that we, I'm looking at this, that we have 60, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the document that he actually sent today. I thought I had it handy.
Lisa, I'm happy to have you continue, but might I suggest that since both Chris and Jen are here, perhaps we could just pose that question to them.
No, I really would rather explain what I was told first. I want to be clear about it, but I do want to get right to the point. They basically said that $65,000 has been identified by the town accountant and the town manager to be used on the master plan for work with MAPSI, $65,000. In addition to that, I had a question about that $25,000 tap that MAPSI said would be available for work on the master plan, which would be subtracted from the total cost of 180. And since they did half of the work, my question is, why are we not applying half of that $25,000 to pay for the services that MAPSI completed on the first half of their work? Because if that was the case, we could use that additional $12,500 for the fiscal year 25 budget, and then we'd have an additional, I think it turns out to be $75,000 or something like that, for use. But Chris clarifies that the town manager will determine if I'll read it, if $65,000 would continue to be available. She will decide if those funds would continue to be available. Without a proposal from the board, no funding can be definitive. So with a solid proposal, a workable budget, and a clear path to completion of a plan, those funds would be available. So we're told if we create a good proposal, we make the numbers work in what we're proposing, when we ask for the funds to use for the master plan, if we should want to hire someone other than MAPSI, we would prepare this and present it to the town manager, who would decide if she will make those funds available. Now, that's what it sounds like. I was told just yesterday. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Hey,
essentially.
sorry,
Oh,
Chris.
go ahead, Jim.
If I can, I'm not sure your original question, Lisa, was what funds would be available to the planning board if you did not use MAPC going forward. And I would say that there would be no funds available to the planning board if you did not use MAPC going forward. And the reason for that is the town has been awarded a $25,000 technical assistance planning grant from MAPC, in which the town would utilize its available grant match funds, to match the difference in the cost for phase 2. You do not go forward with MAPC, they will not be providing technical assistance relative to developing phase 2 of the master plan, and therefore there would not be a grant for the town to match. And I do want to say, because I know transparency is very important to you, I know you keep referring to them as MAPSI, but one of the things in transparency is using the same and correct language. They do go by the acronym MAPC.
Thank you, Jen. Abby?
Okay, so this is the first we have heard about this, and the fact that we are locked into working with MAPC. And that is a question that that the board has been asking. A few months ago, I believe we had taken a vote to start exploring other options without having consulting firms come and do presentations, but taking a look. So the fact that we apparently don't have this option in front of us this is the first time we're hearing it. And if Chris has, known this all along, it certainly was not communicated in that straightforward a way. So I just want to go on the record as saying this is absolutely the first we're hearing about this. And that the planning board should be able to work with the vendor that they think is the best fit for the town. And this is really disappointing.
Meg, may I clarify or respond to that?
Yes, and then I have a question as well. Go ahead.
Sure. So the question, Abby, was how much funding would be available to the planning board if the planning board did not go forward with MAPC? And that was the question that I answered. What you're stating is not what I stated, and I don't believe what Chris has been communicating. Should the planning board choose to go forward with another consultant is not the question that was asked. And the planning board could decide to go forward. We do have an existing contract with MAPC for phase 1 and phase 2, or at least in the contract, phase 2 is stated. So that would be a contractual issue that needs to be addressed. And as I stated earlier, it would also, the planning board would also likely need to address how to fund another phase 1 or portion thereof.
The contract actually has a clause for termination of agreement. So we are
I'm
not.
sure it does, and I'm sure MAPC, if the planning board did not want to go forward with them, would, and I cannot speak for them, would certainly have that conversation. But clarifying the question that I answered was how much funding would be available,
So
not whether or not the planning board could choose another consultant going forward.
So if the planning board
Abby, I'm going to come back to you, but I had Jen. I also have a question for you. So, may
okay, but I do have a question that I think is important.
All right, can you remind me, because it might have been the meeting that I missed in July, but when did the planning board vote to look at other options? Like I don't recall there being an official vote on that. But am I wrong? I'm honestly asking. I just don't recall.
I don't know the date of the meeting.
Lisa, can you answer that?
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
Sorry. I can't give an exact date, but I do remember I was new on the board. So it was back at the end of May or early June. And I also don't think it was an actual vote, but I do remember that it was consensus, that I think every person that was there agreed we should look into this.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. That's helpful, because I was just trying to recall if there was a vote that the board had taken, or if it was sort of a discussion with agreement of like, yes, this is something we want to explore. So thank you. I can go back to the meeting minutes and just refresh myself on that. Abby, you had a follow-up question for Jen, and then I will go to Lisa.
I did. So I'll rephrase Lisa's question. If we opt to go with a different consultant, what amount of money has been set aside from the town budget to do that, and how would we go about procuring the remainder? Is that something that we would need to have put into the budget for planning and community development, or how would that work? I'm not saying that that's the way we're going to go, but I always believe in having a backup plan.
So no, there was not any money put into the budget for phase 2 because we have the TAP award that would be applied, and we have the reserves, if you will, in the grant match funds. That is exactly for that purpose, matching the grant so that we can complete phase 2 work. Going forward, my suggestion at this point in time would be, this would likely be a capital planning application that would be put forward as one option. The planning board could identify, because, well, let me back up the capital planning, the balance. Again, I don't know what the planning board would be looking towards going forward, a full restart of the master plan, a phase 2, and that would have to assume that a different consulting firm would be willing to utilize the work of another firm, that being MAPC and the phase 1. So you could be seeking up to $150,000 or more for a new master plan and consultant that would require an RFI or procurement process, which would go through my office, and you'd have to identify the funding source for that, which again would either be capital planning or another grant opportunity.
Jen, I don't think we have answers to those questions yet, because
No, I don't think so. I think that I thought Abby's question was, how would that be funded going forward? And I think those are the options, because I don't have that answer either. That would largely fall to town meeting, given the nature of the work.
Okay. Lisa?
Thanks. I do know that I asked 4 different times that specific question. I know that my emails were very clear about that when I was asking for what funds would be available if the planning board did not go forward with MAPC. I know I was clear. The other questions I have been asking, like I referred to this issue of the TAP grant, I think that either the town manager or the planner should be able to say, are you saying that MAPC, who had us complete the first part of this project, would not apply half of that TAP amount to the first phase? Are you saying that MAPC will only give that break of $25,000 if we ask them to do the whole thing? Because I don't see, is that in the contract? Because that doesn't make sense to me.
No.
That's my question.
Lisa, I think I'm asking, you need to listen to what I'm saying. The grant, the TAP award was awarded for a specific scope and application. That was for phase 2 of the master planning process. That's what the award is for. It's not unlike any other grant award. You apply for a specific scope of work, and you can't shift around an award to different projects or phases of a project. So the answer is no. That is not what the TAP award is for. It is specifically for phase 2 of the
So, okay, and it says that in the contract that it's specifically for phase 2?
Yes, it would.
All right. The other question, or the comment that I want to make sure everybody understands is there actually was $43,000 plus $20,000 that came out of the fiscal year 25 capital budget. I mean, that's clear on Chris's summary that those amounts were assigned in the fiscal year 25 capital budget. They have applied $43,000 to phase 1 to the paid MAPC, that amount for phase 1, which leaves $20,000 remaining. Is there some reason why you would say that that money that has been appropriated for the master plan out of the fiscal year 25 capital budget, is there any reason that is not still there for the master plan?
Lisa, I'm not sure what you're looking at or referring to.
I'm looking
but
at
my guess is, if I could finish answering your question, my guess is that whatever was charged against the first portion of, or against the phase 1 portion of the project has been paid out to MAPC. I don't have that budget or accounting in front of me, so that's the best I can answer your question. But looking at the contract, phase 1 was $90,000. You're referencing $25,000 in FY25. So my best guess without having the accounting in front of me is that was paid out against that initial grant.
Well, no, it wasn't according to the summary that we have, the summary we were given. And I'm looking at it right now, and it shows that for, as I say, you should trust me, I'm looking right at it, that $43,000 was paid for phase one for the work that MAPC did. And then it has available for phase two, fiscal year 25 capital, $20,000. It has it there.
I don't know what is the summary you're referencing? Otherwise, this
That's a
isn't.
summary. That's a summary I put together. So those are where the funds are coming from.
Yes, so those funds have been allotted for the master plan, right? We have not, the planning.
43 has already been spent, and there's 20 towards phase two.
Yes, whoever we choose to do the work, it looks like in the budget, there was allotted an extra, there's a $20,000 at least from the fiscal year 25 budget available, right?
For phase two, right? For phase two.
Yes, but yes, for phase two, no matter who does it, right?
Oh,
And I asked Chris or Matt to please provide the if you're going to say that there was a budget line item for fiscal year 25 that actually specifically said that this money has to go to MAPC. I don't think I've seen such a thing. I asked to see the budget line item. I'd asked to actually see the budget where these monies for the master plan were actually identified, and I haven't received anything. I mean, I know that it's somewhere. I've scoured the town website. I've looked through the annual report for fiscal year the year before. I know the information is there and that you have access to it, and I don't. But I think if my colleagues on the planning board would look at the summary that Chris provided to us, I honestly believe that we should be able to rely on the fact that there are $20,000 out of fiscal year 25 capital that is available for the master plan, whatever part we use it for, that it is there for the planning board to use. The grant match, I think the town manager was just explaining something new. The grant match is basically out of her budget for matching grants, the amount that she was going to make available for the master plan based on the contract with MAPC. But why would that amount not be available to the planning board to do the work if we choose not to have the work done by MAPC? Not sure why. I do understand that the planning board makes that decision about making that money available, but I don't see why it wouldn't be available. We're not talking about giving it to a private group. I mean, we're talking about making it available for the purposes of the working on the master plan. Same thing. So I've got my answer about the TAP. I understand about that. But I think we can count on at least having $20,000 in there. And as I read to you from Chris's message, he was saying if the planning board puts together a good proposal with a workable budget and a clear trajectory for how the project's going to be completed, that we would go to the town manager and ask for those funds.
But I also said it was not definitive. I said it was not definitive. So there's no definite spending of that money for a certain, other.
Except the $20,000, it's already been allotted in the budget. $20,000 is already appropriated. The last thing that I want to say about this, I understand there's a process here. We have to follow the appropriate process, for accessing funds. And of course, we have to make it clear how they're going to be used, and the funds can only, the accountant has to make sure that the funds are only used for what they're, supposed to be used for. But the planning board under state statute, has a right to choose to hire any assistance that they need to do the work of the board. Yes, we have to go through a process, but I don't think that if we go about it the right way, I don't think we can be denied and be told we will not, no funds will be available to you for the master plan because you're not choosing MAPC. I don't think that can happen.
Okay, I'm going to go to Jen, and then I'm going to go to Jean, and then I'm going to move us on to the next topic, given the hour of the evening, and we've gotten through quite a bit. Jen.
Thank you, Meg, and I will try and keep this brief, but I just want to be very clear. Lisa, I think you're creating some false narrative. Again, to my knowledge, yes, you are, and that's not transparent, and that's not fair to the public that is trying to pay attention, or the media that's trying to pay attention to this discussion. If in fact there is a balance of $20,000, which again, I do not have the accounting in front of me, then yes, that would be available, but that would still leave a delta, as far as I can tell, of about anywhere from $130,000 to between $70,000 and $130,000 to consult with and to utilize a different consultant other than MAPC, and that has not been budgeted for. And you are correct. The planning board can assist in selecting a consultant should it choose to go with a different consultant. That doesn't equate to the right to having those funds available to do that work. This would be a capital item, as far as I can see at this point in time, and that would have to be approved. And that would have to be approved by town meeting. And I would also suggest that the board would need to explain why it's respending an additional $90,000. So just want to be very clear.
Okay, thank you. And then Jean.
I appreciate what you're saying, Lisa. But certainly as a board, we can't just say, sure, we want to do this and we want the money. It doesn't work that way. That is a town decision. That's not even a town manager decision. That is a town decision, because that would have to be, it's not, $5,000. That is something that would be voted on in the budget. So my concern is, that we're slowing the process down even further if we're going to start looking at other options, and this master plan is never going to get off the ground. I am all for still pursuing MAPC, and hopefully we can work through the issues we have and proceed.
Okay, Abby, I did say we're going to move on now, so I'm gonna move us on to phase 2 next steps. And actually, what I think I'm going to suggest is that, given that we still have some other things on the agenda, and that I don't think we have a clear path for next steps at this time, that we table that to our next meeting. Does anyone object? Abby, is your hand up in objection?
My hand is up because
is it because I've moved us on? So so I know your hand was up before, but I had said that after Jean we were going to move on. So if your hand is up in objection on moving on from phase 2, that's fine. If not, let's move on, please. Okay. All right, we will pick up master planning discussion next time. Next item, scheduling for joint meeting with zoning bylaw committee. So we have had several requests from Susan Short Green, who's the chair of the zoning bylaw committee. She's also from the select board, to be able to schedule our joint meeting with the zoning bylaw committee so that we can give them a sense of what is going to be coming their way in a joint and collaborative fashion in preparation for town meeting. And so I think where we have where we started with this was we started then having a conversation about, kind of planning board priorities and how we're going to move forward with that. We're now at the end of August. I do agree that we need to move things to the zoning bylaw committee so that they can start preparing. And Susan has suggested that we meet, just pulling up the email so I can reference it, on Wednesday, September 23rd. Now, I will say I am not available, and I had told this to the board back in January when we talked about the schedule of meetings. I had said I would not be available for the September 23rd meeting. So as long as Abby can chair and is willing to do that, I am more than happy to have the business of the town proceed in my absence, regardless of my attendance. That said, we have a meeting on September 9th, and then we would be at the 23rd. So I'm opening it up to the board now around how do we want to proceed? Is there any, is the 23rd going to be a possibility? Do we need to look at other meetings? I think we would need to look at maybe moving one of our meetings or an off-cycle meeting if we go into October. So I will start with Jean, then Abby, then Lisa. Jean, go ahead.
Thank you, Meg. Since we have the benefit of having a town manager here, do you have an idea? I know last year, Jen, there was a shift in the scheduling of how we really went through this process, and it was kind of more accelerated than it was in past years. So I was wondering, do you have any idea of what the schedule would be this year? Because that will obviously it will affect the zoning bylaw committee and any work that we do on zoning amendments.
If I may, Meg, through you.
Yes.
Yes, Jean, we right now, for staff on the capital side and the budget side, have those requests from department heads due, let's say, collectively on average by early October. My goal is to have initial meetings and initial budget presentations no later than late November, first week in December, with a final budget by the end of January, early February. And so I know that's not exact. You're looking to zoning, but the goal is this year to have the warrant ready, to really be able to leave April open for outreach and questions and engagement leading up to town meeting. Does that help at all?
Sure.
We haven't set the specific warrant opening and closing dates, but internally we've discussed.
Because typically the warrant is a little later. So I would think then what you're saying is probably, realistically speaking, we kind of want to have things nailed down by.
I would say you'd want it. Oh, sorry.
Are you saying January or February?
Yeah, I was just going to say you'd want to have your public hearings really by the end of January, the latest.
Okay.
Thank you, Jen. That's going to be important information for this conversation. So good question, Jean. Abby?
Given that I really think the planning board needs to have some idea of what we would like the zoning bylaw committee to work on, I'm wondering if we need to add a meeting or two to the schedule. I don't think that it would be productive or helpful to have a meeting with the zoning bylaw committee in September. because that won't give us time to have this conversation, and we haven't had it yet.
I'm going to go ahead and comment before Lisa and just say in response to that, Abby, I am really not in favor of having this board add additional meetings at this time. We have had many meetings this summer, and they have not all been, easy. And, I think everyone here has done their best to show up, especially even this meeting, which we weren't supposed to have. People have, moved their schedules around to be available. We are getting back now into the swing of things in the fall. I personally am not able to make myself available for additional meetings at this time. I think we need to either find a meeting in October that we can switch, or we need to find a way to get our stuff together in due time, because I don't think adding additional meetings is fair to this board. We have had a lot with the ZBA. We have asked a lot of people this summer, and I just am not in favor of it. Lisa. Let Lisa go. We'll come back to you, Abby.
I just wanted to say, I do feel that we should try to get a quick start on this. And one of the ways, I think I drafted the tentative list. We didn't approve it all, I don't think, but I know that I developed a tentative list, so I've got it. I could send that out to others. One thing that we might do is we might form a subcommittee for this, just, a couple people to organize this list, or to clarify this, to put this together, to bring it back to the planning board for a quick, hopefully a quick conversation. Like if we could prepare, then maybe we could present these items in a way that people could quickly, hopefully, decide which of the zoning amendments the planning board as a whole would approve. Because I do think that getting it to the ZBA as soon as possible, it would be really helpful, because they're raring to go, and let them do the big research to come back to the planning board with their suggestions.
Thank you, Lisa. Jean.
I know in the past, there have been times where the zoning bylaw committee has actually had some things that they've been looking at, or, willing to look at. And I think it might be good to touch base with them in a joint meeting sooner rather than later.
Are you saying even just for clarification, even if we don't have our sort of ducks in a row yet? Jean, is that what you're suggesting?
I think it would be good to touch base with them. I mean, I think, everybody can come to the table with ideas, and we can see if there's consensus on anything. It's just a thought. I get concerned because I know we have to remember the fall gets very short. One meeting in November, maybe one meeting in December, and all of a sudden we are in January. And I think we need to keep this fresh and keep it moving, because, there are things that need to be tended to. So it's almost, do we have a joint meeting and we come, each of us, with our ideas? And the same for them. I mean, they're on the zoning bylaw committee. They may have seen some things, or they may be looking at things. That's all.
Abby, go ahead.
I have a couple of comments. I'd appreciate the opportunity to get through them. First of all, this is an incredibly important year for zoning. There have been a lot of changes made at the state level, and we need to figure out how those changes are going to impact our zoning bylaws. I know Brian Winter at some point is going to come and talk to us about that. I think that the state has finished making their changes, but I'm not 100% sure. Secondly, we don't want to be in a position where the tail is wagging the dog we need to put the work in to really understand what our goals are and what we need to accomplish at this town meeting. I understand what you're saying about additional meetings, but the reality is our zoning code needs updating in a lot of areas, and we can't just keep kicking the can down the road. Also, with respect, I am the liaison to the zoning bylaw committee, so I'm happy to update the board on the conversations that have been had so far, which really haven't been in any detail because they are waiting for the joint meeting. That said, I think that a joint meeting at this point in time would be a disorganized mess. I think we need to have some clear ideas, and they need to have some clear ideas before we move forward.
Okay, I will let Lisa go, and then I have something that I would like to share. Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, that's basically what I was going to say is I just imagine if we had a joint meeting before the planning board had time to go back to the ideas that we originally drafted. We haven't looked at those for a while. We haven't really discussed them. I think it would be chaos. I can just imagine people there would be some overlap for sure, but there would be ideas put out there and I think we would be wasting a lot of time. With chaos. So I'll say again that one alternative to having additional meetings for the full planning board is to have a subcommittee who would be willing to meet, at least one extra time to organize the list that we started to put together and to put it together in such a way that when we brought it back to the planning board, we could hope that the board could maybe vote on these things quickly and decide and call the list before we meet with the CPC.
Okay, so I would like to suggest, I hear everyone, I do. Another option, and I've heard a lot of options that I like, would be to shift one of our October meetings, perhaps to be earlier in the month, so that it allows us to have both September meetings to prepare, and then maybe we could meet October 7th or shift our Wednesday, the 14th meeting. We do have challenges with other days. I think people just, so we need to poll the board about their availability, but that is an option. I'm not opposed if there's a subcommittee, if it is the board's pleasure to have a subcommittee, I think that's great. If it is the board's pleasure to add additional meetings, that is the board's pleasure. I may or may not be available. And I do feel strongly that we need to be respectful that this is a volunteer board, and it is a volunteer board made up of people who this is one thing that they do out of everything. That goes for all of us. We all have very rich and busy lives. And so I just am very hesitant to ask people to add more time when we have two meetings when we could be efficient, or we could make a subcommittee, or we could work through this. And I see Nancy is putting her thumbs up. So I'm going to go to Jean, and then I think maybe let's figure out a path forward. Jean, go ahead.
Okay, where can I find this list of zoning articles that has been compiled?
I believe we can have, I think that's one of the previous Dropbox folders. So Chris, maybe you could share that.
Yeah.
Okay, I would appreciate that. And then secondly, when is the soonest we can meet with Brian Winter?
That is a good question. I can ask Brian because we may need to have an executive session to follow up on certain items on our meeting September 9th. So maybe I can inquire if he could be available at that time to discuss some of the zoning changes with us. What do folks think of that?
Great.
Okay. I will take an action to inquire with Brian about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Abby?
You're on mute.
Thank you. I had also compiled a suggested list of areas to address in the zoning code. So I can share that with you, Chris, or Matt. And
Yeah, send it in. We'll compile it with the other one.
great, thanks.
Okay. I think that probably what we need to do is, I don't know, here, I'm going to make a suggestion, see what the board thinks about it. I'm not hearing a lot of takers that the 23rd is going to be possible. So I would suggest that maybe Chris, if you and Matt could pull the board for some other options in October that, you know, that may require some dancing on our part or on the part of the, you know, zoning bylaw committee, to be able to meet.
I think Susan mentioned October 7th as a possibility.
Does anyone know, are there any high holy days then? I'm not seeing any on the calendar, but Lisa, go ahead.
It's a Monday. I'm not absolutely sure, but it might be a day that the HRA is meeting. I mean, I'm not sure, but it's a thing to check. Oh, is it Labor Day? Wait a minute.
Oh, it is.
It's Labor Day.
What is Labor Day?
October
7th.
Columbus Day.
We're talking about October 7th.
October 7th.
Did I? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was looking at the map wrong.
Nope.
So sorry.
You're okay.
Fine.
I'm looking forward to Labor Day too, Lisa. I'm with you. It will be good. Yeah, October 7th is a Wednesday, so I just wanted, yeah. So maybe, I mean, I could be available then. I don't know if others can. Jean, go ahead.
I am out of town,
Okay.
but I am available every other Wednesday that month.
Okay. Chris, I think this might be a schedule, like if we can maybe like put, like, I don't know if it's a poll or how you guys want to do it, just, you know, but I think we at least have an answer on the 23rd. We can try and get Brian in for the 9th, and try and get this moving. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, all right, so I think for our last item tonight, all right, Lisa has communicated to myself and Abby that she would like to resign as clerk from the board. So Lisa, I don't know if you have, you know, anything you want to say on that, or if you would like us to just move forward. I will also say I did not put a full board resignation on the agenda tonight. I wasn't sure if we were going to have a full board or B, a new member. I'm happy to entertain a motion from anyone who wants to, you know, I mean, you can vote to people can ask for us to reorganize at any time. So, you know, I know I'm perfectly happy to continue to serve in this capacity. I think Abby is happy to serve in her capacity, but if we want to reorganize, that is always an option. So Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to, I did assume that we were going to reorganize. You know, I brought this up last week and I assumed that we would be reorganizing. That's why I thought it was a moment to let you know. So are you saying that we could, with the members we have right now, decide to reorganize? Because I think there were a couple other designees. There were a couple other positions that were open that weren't filled, I thought.
So I was not thinking of a reorganization of committees at tonight, but why did we put that on the agenda for next time? Because you are right, there are some, I think we have people who have doubled up, or, you know, so maybe we can take a look at that. But I'm not sure that we would want to do that tonight because, again, we don't have a full board. But we could put it on the agenda. If you're talking about committees, the committee representatives, we could put that on the agenda for next time.
Well, can I say, are you saying that we're not going? My understanding on all the boards was when you have a new member, you reorganize.
We
That
can
was,
we can reorganize if people want to reorganize. I'm happy to put that on the agenda for next time if there is a desire to reorganize. I'm just also saying that you know, we can do that. I'm happy to put that on the agenda. And Lisa, we did speak about it.
Should we vote or wait until next week? Because I don't think it's not an automatic.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
We don't
All we need is a new clerk, right?
we don't have to reorganize, but we can also discuss it next week. I really, it's not, and if whatever will please the board. I feel like I'm George Harrison in Let It Be, where he's sitting there saying, whatever will please you, I'll do it. I just want to make
reorganize, didn't we?
so if you want to reorganize next week, we can discuss it. We might end up with the same outcomes. That's fine. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Whatever it is that people want. All right, I'm going to go to Jean and then Lisa.
Number one, reorganization is not on the agenda.
Right.
So we wouldn't do it, and we don't have a full board, and we customarily have always tried to only reorganize when all members are present. And certainly one person stepping down does not mean that we have to do a full board reorganization. That just hasn't happened. So it will be the pleasure of the board. We could just vote to approve somebody else as the clerk. I understand. I don't look at assignments to different committees and so forth as reorg. Those are assignments. Reorg is your chair, vice chair, and clerk. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Lisa, go ahead.
yeah, I just, the only thing I'll say is I have every committee that I've been aware of that I've watched, when they get a new member of the board, they reorganize. Of course, it makes sense to wait until there's a full, everybody's there. And of course, they say you can't do it if it's not on the agenda. So I'm not arguing, I'm not suggesting it should be done tonight. I'm simply saying that every other board and committee I've seen, when they get a new member, they reorganize. And I think it's probably a good thing to do it, even if the same people end up in the same spots, because I don't think it's a good idea to assume, like a few people assume that they don't want to switch and therefore not bring it up. So I guess I think that next meeting, the board should reorganize and deal with all the positions. And it doesn't matter a bit if things end up the same way. Doesn't matter to me at all.
Okay, noted. Happy to put it on the agenda for next week. Abby, go ahead.
I understand that has been someone's experience. That hasn't necessarily been my experience. If someone wants to make that motion and second it next week, then we can. Otherwise, we don't need to, because if someone doesn't make the motion and doesn't second it, then by default, I'm guessing it means that people don't want to.
Sure. I think what we should do is we should put reorganization as an agenda topic next week, so that if someone were to want to make such a motion, or if someone has decided to step down, that we can reorganize. If no one makes the motion, then we don't have to. But we do have someone who has indicated that they would like to step away from their role at this time, and that's reasonable. So Lisa, are you comfortable with us waiting until next week? Okay, all right. Because we did say, whether or not this is what has happened on our boards, we did say that we could visit this topic when we had a new member. So I'm fine with it. And if there's a motion, then we will have a motion. If there's no motion, then we will carry on as we have. So, I think we're all here. We're just doing our best. I think we had some really good discussion tonight. I know it's been challenging. It's been a challenging summer for all of us, but I really am happy that everyone is here and that everyone is on this board. I think that it is good to have people who disagree with each other I see Nancy is agreeing with that. So I just want everyone to let's take a minute and thank you to all of you for your time, because everyone's given a lot of time this summer. Everyone's given their passion. There's not a person on this board who doesn't care deeply about this town. So I just want to let you all know that that's how I feel. I might not always be able to emote that because, you know, I don't know, my face, I don't know, but that's how I feel. I really do feel like everyone here cares about the town. So, all right. Anything else? Should we try and do some project updates, subcommittee updates or discussion? Lisa did send me some updates from her area. I can have them added to the Dropbox. Lisa, or if you want to give them now, we can, or we could do both. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I would like to, because something's changed since
Okay.
I first sent that to you. So two committees, well, or two entities. The Waterfront Access Committee will be meeting, we think, on September 24th. That's a Thursday. If that doesn't work out, it might be October 1st, but we will meet then. It has not met since May because people have not evidently been in town. The other is the DCR Town HRA partnership meetings. There has also not been one of those meetings, but the town manager has announced at a couple different meetings that that they're scheduling a DCR forum for Tuesday, September 22nd. And then I know someone who actually knows someone who works for the DCA and is very much involved. And they said that they were told that it would be at the resort, at the Nantasket Beach Resort, but that's not confirmed. At any rate, it will be then. And then we're also told that it will also be talking about the two-way road at the same time. Town staff will be talking about the two-way road.
Okay. Noted. Any other committee or subcommittee updates? I'm not on a committee or subcommittee, so I cannot give any updates. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Lisa. Let's move on to project updates. Anything, Chris, that we need to be aware of there?
I think we're all set right now.
Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn as we have gotten through our agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Paquin. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Boyce. All right. I don't think we need to discuss, so I'm going to do a roll call. Lisa French. You're on mute. It's okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Abby?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Nancy?
Definitely aye.
Riley, aye. It's unanimous. All right. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you on the 9th.
Night.
Everybody,
Hey, Carol. Good night.
good night.